All right, good evening, everybody. I'd like to call the Thursday, April 10th Planning Commission meeting of the Township of Haverford to order. It is now 7:04. If I may please have everyone rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Ms. Gillis, would you call roll, please?
Okay. Ms. Dobbs.
Here.
Mr. Capuzzi. Mr. Capuzzi.
Here.
Ms. DiTrolio.
Here.
Mr. Terranova.
Here.
Mr. Welsh.
Here.
Ms. Onopa.
Here.
And not present tonight is Victor Cortese.
Okay, thank you. We'll go ahead and get started with our first agenda item. We are hearing tonight a redevelopment and lot consolidation from OD Investments LLC located at 83 South Eagle Road. So this is a proposal to redevelop and consolidate two split zone contiguous parcels on an existing 1.6 acre tract of land. Again, this is on South Eagle. And what's being proposed is a new 5,000 square foot storage building. And this is in the C3 General Commercial and R6 Medium Density Residential Districts. Is somebody here present on behalf of the applicant? And would you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, good evening. Dave Damon, I'm president, H. Gower Damon Associates, and civil engineer, land surveyor. So the plan you have before you is basically the same layout that was here when we reviewed the sketch plan prior to going to zoning. So the zoning board approved the variances for the project in November 20th. So, see if I can get the plan up. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm here.
There it is.
Yeah, there it is.
So it involves the lot consolidation of the two properties, 83 that fronts on South Eagle, and then this lot that sits behind 57 South Eagle. And there's a land development plan with the consolidated lots shown as one. And that, as you recall, there was a lot of impervious removed, so over 22,000 square feet of impervious are proposed to be removed. And landscape buffering provided, in particular along the rear of the property where it abuts the residentially zoned property. And, elsewhere on the property. And the zoning was approved to allow the 5,000 square foot storage building, which would essentially take the storage that's sitting out in this open lot now and have it under roof. The parking provides 59 spaces, which just meets what's required based on the square footages of the uses. Landscaping would add over 100 trees. And that, again, primarily along the rear of the property. Based on the impervious being removed, the stormwater runoff is reduced from the site. And, it actually allows for an exemption of the stormwater management ordinance because the impervious is being reduced by over 20%. So we have requested a waiver to allow this to be reviewed as a preliminary final, and I think this has been reviewed a couple times by the Planning Commission. At least they've seen this site. We asked for a waiver to not provide a traffic impact study. based on the fact that the use is going to be similar to what's there now, and we don't anticipate any increase at all in traffic. In going through the review letter from the township engineer, third waiver appears as if, we should have requested, and that is the one that asks that you show sanitary, storm, and water utilities within 400 feet of the site. This property right now, we're not adding any new utilities. All the utilities are existing. And I can start to go through the engineer's review letter. We did receive recommendation for approval from the County Planning Commission in March. So the letters dated March 26. The first comment was under zoning, indicates that single parking area, 50 more spaces, will have at least 5% in the area of landscaping, in addition to the open area requirements of the district. So we would comply with that. I think based on the landscape islands that we have here now, I think we would comply. We just have to check those calculations and add landscaping if necessary. But that would be a will comply. Subdivision land development 2 is sending out the certified notices to residents within 200 feet of the property, which we did do, and actually heard from several of them. Item 3 is involving the Parks and Recreation, and we would request a fee in lieu of, rather than trying to dedicate some area here for open space. 4 is that the waiver that I talked about, and the ordinance requires showing all those utilities within 400 feet of the site. What we will do is clearly show all the utilities on site and how they're servicing the buildings. But I would request a waiver on that. 5 is the sewage planning module exemption is required. We're waiting to hear. We requested a waiver planning from the DEP because there's no new bathrooms, and the use is going to be the same, and we'll see what they say as to that, but we'll either have that or follow through with an exemption. Item 6 is concerning the stormwater management from the site, and the property pretty much it does split. So the part of the property that faces South Eagle Road drains to the northwest. It drains out to Eagle Road through the driveway, and that starts somewhere around this area, the parking lot. The rest, most of the site drains to the rear, and it, based on some of the testimony and based on being out to the site, I think there's a poor drainage that accumulates in this area and makes its way off-site eventually in a somewhat controlled manner. The comment, it says that rather than have it all overflow to the rear, would be to direct some of this stormwater, more of it, to Eagle Road. And I discussed with the township engineer taking the roof drainage from the new building and putting it in an infiltration pipe with perforated piping and stone, and routing it through this parking lot to a point where it can overflow out to Eagle Road. So we're directing the runoff from that new impervious roof area, and pretty much all of it's going to be infiltrated with that length of perforated pipe and stone, but anything that wouldn't be infiltrated would overflow to Eagle Road, so that it wouldn't impact any of these properties that sit east of the property. And that, that I would be confident that the drainage issues that they see there now, would be greatly reduced. Based on, right now, we're reducing the runoff by about 20% from the site because of removing the impervious, but then we would, reduce it even more by taking this roof area and directing it out to Eagle Road. So they're on Columbus Avenue. It looks as if, there's a large curb that runs along here that protects those places from runoff, but looks like the water probably makes its way past that curb at some point in time if there's a very large storm. Comment 7 is just that the stormwater agreement would be required in a contribution for this facility in the future maintenance and inspection of it. And we would agree to comply with that. Under general comments, 8 was the applicant should provide a vehicle circulation plan to demonstrate that the largest vehicle required can access the interior of the site, maneuver into the designated loading spaces. So the original plan, we had come in here before, I think had some issues with the turning radiuses. Not that we presented them, but we looked at laying this out so that, trucks can turn here, that there'd be a hammerhead turnaround back here so that trucks can then turn around and make their way out of the site. There's, loading, offloading will be here in the storage building primarily. Smaller trucks can use this garage here, and there's a loading area there. Trash trucks will be able to use the dumpsters. So we'll comply with that, showing that plan, but I'm confident that the layout is sufficient. 9 is existing and proposed utilities are to be indicated on the plan. And right now, the plan shows the electric, gas that serve the building, some of the sewer, but there's a sewer that also runs through an easement, and that needs to be added to here. So we'll make sure we have the plans updated to show each utility that serves those 2 existing buildings, and we'll show the proposed electric going to the new building. 11 is showing the sewer lateral that is within the utility easement. That runs from the rear building all the way out to Eagle Road through a 15-foot wide easement that's on the adjoining property. And it's identified with some cleanouts. We're fairly certain that the location is. And then there's a clean out here, so the sewer for this older building, I think there's 2 of them, one for the new portion, one for the old portion, so we'll show both of those. Comment at 12 is there's a sidewalk along Eagle Road, and when it gets to this property, it steps back some, so it's further from Eagle Road, and it's partially outside of that 50-foot right-of-way line. And we would agree to show a easement for that sidewalk rather than rebuild it. 13 is just adding a note to substandard curb and sidewalks to be replaced, and that's a will comply. 14 is provide details for the privacy fence and the trash enclosures, and we'll comply with that. 15 is adding notes to the lighting plan, and that's a will comply. 16, we were, I guess, awaiting comments from the Shade Tree Commission on the landscaping. And that's it. I did give a copy of, I think I skipped over 10, gave a copy of that easement that's on 57 South Eagle Road to Chuck Faulkner at the beginning of the meeting. So I think that's, my presentation. I don't know if there's any questions that the board has. I'm happy to discuss that.
Okay, thank you. I just want to clarify then, so you're requesting two waivers currently, so one is to do the joint prelim final plan, and then the second is to not provide the traffic impact study, and then you're saying you would amend your waiver request to then also include the utilities, and that was related to comment
The off-site
Number
utilities, yes.
number 4, so this would be showing all the utilities within the areas surrounding, the 400 feet surrounding the parcel. Okay, so there would be 3 waivers in total?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
Can you please provide us some additional information as to why you're requesting the waiver from the traffic impact study?
It's based on the statements by the applicant during, zoning, during previous meetings that the use here is going to be similar to what's currently there with McGoldrick Electric as far as the vehicles that come in and out. He's going to occupy the 2 existing buildings mainly as office use and going to, have storage in that building in the rear. Most of the vehicles, and Kevin's here, he can speak to it, most of their vehicles, the truck vehicles, are off-site, kept at the homes of the employees that use them, and they go from there right to the jobs. So a lot of this is going to be clerical and sales people that are in these on the site, on a regular basis. And some trucks coming in to, pick up the equipment that would be stored back here when it's necessary in that storage building. So, that's why we're asking that waiver. Just that it's not going to be any real big change. It's a similar contractor's yard, similar use, and not a big traffic generator.
With the additional storage unit, though, does that mean that there's going to be more deliveries to the site and therefore more truck traffic?
Now, the site right now, this whole area is full, of equipment, conduit. There's sheds back there. There's all sorts of storage going on now outside, and that's pretty much what they've used it for. So it's actually going to be less storage there, and it's going to be inside.
Sorry, it didn't answer my question, though. Will there be more deliveries? So if there's...
No, it would be the similar amount of deliveries. So they're getting deliveries now of all their electrical. They store all their electrical equipment and things that they use, McGoldrick Electric does. So it's going to be probably similar or even less deliveries than they have, is my understanding of it.
So will any of the employees be, so you're saying the only employees that are parking here are predominantly in the administrative?
And sales. And Kevin, speak up. He can talk.
Hi, how are you? I'm Kevin O'Donnell. I own O'Donnell Roofing Company, and I'm under contract for this property, barring I get these approvals. So just the way the business operates now, we're currently down on Lansdowne Avenue in Upper Darby. In comparison to what Ryan McGoldrick has going on, I would imagine he may even get more deliveries than I do. So when we get deliveries, we only inventory a few things for our jobs. And the way we operate is that our project managers will come on about 50% of our jobs. Our project managers will load up on a few items that we use every day. They put them in their pickup truck and they leave. We get those deliveries for inventory once a month, maybe. So we don't have delivery trucks going in and out, taking delivery for inventory. They're very large bulk orders, right? We don't have them. I would think that we get a delivery once a month, once every 6 weeks. But when we get them, it's a trailer full of goods. So I don't anticipate an increase in that. And we're actually looking to decrease our inventory, to be honest with you. In terms of what the use is, so this rear structure is an office building. The front is an office building that I will soon renovate. So it's administrative. It's just our headquarters. Most of my workers take trucks home with them and they go right to the job site. So I have project managers that will come in and out. Sales comes in and out, but I have a sales office in Berwyn, and I kind of have satellite sales hubs. So, yeah, I'm not sure if that answers your question, but based on how Ryan operates now and how we operate, it's very comparable. We try to keep the guys out. We don't want them at the shop. Like we want, it's for office workers, clerical, production staff. And yeah, we have a lot of employees. I have 30 people that work for me full time in the office, and then the rest of the guys take the trucks home with them and go right to the site.
Can I ask a qualifying question?
Yeah.
So on the jobs, right? I get it like this. I'm assuming that somebody, gets all the shingles and stuff like that. It's being delivered at their house, so it's not even that's why it's
Correct.
coming to you first.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, so every job we do, there's a delivery direct from the supplier to the job site.
Okay.
So we don't inventory shingles and like bulk goods like that. I'm talking about, every job has material that would fit in half of a pickup truck bed.
Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure, because in my head I was thinking different.
Nah.
That's why I wanted to clarify that. Thanks.
Couple rolls of underlayment, some 10-foot lengths of metal. That's the extent of what we inventory, and some sheet metal products that we fabricate in this storage facility. We'll have a little corner for fabrication that my shop manager will be in.
Hey, Kevin, just
Yes.
to clarify,
Yep.
McGoldrick's in there now.
Yep.
He's going to be leaving, and
Correct.
you're going to move in.
That's correct.
And you're going to occupy both office buildings,
That's correct.
and then the storage building is for your supplies.
Correct. We'll probably put a truck or two in there.
Okay, all right, so
but yes,
basically McGoldrick's out, you're in.
he's actually taking my shop on Lansdowne Avenue. Yeah.
Sure, I have a few questions. So regarding the engineer review comments that you walked through already, you said you did send the notices and you heard back from some of the neighbors. Can you just clarify what the nature of those comments you received were?
Oh, it was pretty much, why am I getting this?
Okay.
Like, you're within 200 feet. Yeah, that was, no one really, I did speak, and there may be some people here from Columbus Avenue, they were here previously, but I did speak to them previously, but the calls I got at the office were just
Okay.
general calls.
And then I know you said you intend to comply with the truck and vehicle circulation as requested in the engineer review letter. Can you just walk me through a little bit more in detail of how the circulation works on this site, and mainly for two things? What's the largest truck size you plan to have in here? You just spoke to deliveries coming in large trucks. And secondly, how you see trash pickup working?
So the delivery would be the largest truck that goes to the rear building, so it would make its way down, turn, and then it has this horseshoe area to then pull into, unload, and maneuver to turn around so it can then exit the site. So that's the shape here. It's somewhere around 120 feet long by 30 feet or so wide. So it's going to maneuver
So you
back
would
there.
expect the truck to pull into that loading space that's designated in front of the storage garage? Is that what I'm understanding?
That space is designated just because that's the size that it needs to be based on zoning, but it's really can be, it's going to unload anywhere out in this area here where it ends up, I think, and then once a month when that large truck does come, it's where that's going to unload in this whole general area.
So I can definitely appreciate having the loading sizes designated because they're required per the zoning. I think my concern just is, are they functional? So I think when you provide that truck turning diagram, we'll be able to validate that not only loading space is provided, but that they're provided in a useful way. And to that end, you have one of the loading spaces that's kind of wedged on the side at the front of the property with the trash truck or dumpster in front of it. How do you envision that working? Because I can't imagine that's really a loading zone.
Yeah, it's just that because there's 3 buildings, we interpret the code as 3 loading zones.
Okay,
So just that's from a zoning standpoint, showing that, that's where, and then, so it's also a convenient area where a truck can pull up to and unload, if it's a delivery of office supplies or something like that. Because it's convenient to the rear entrance to the building. But the truck would come in and lift up the trash. It would have to back up, make its way down, and then turn around. It can turn around right here. Trash truck could turn around right here and then make its way out this way.
okay. So difficult but doable is what you're saying.
Well, given the narrowest, the lot's narrow, you can't put, a large circle here, but I think it's convenient, very convenient, not difficult at all, because the truck can pull right in and lift it up. And
Okay. And then can you speak to, I see you have 2 dumpster locations on the site. Can you speak to how those locations were determined?
well, there's employees that are going to be in here. They're going to need, some trash. They're not going to generate probably a lot of trash. And employees are here, and they're going to generate trash. So it's for the 2 occupied buildings. This building here is, not really going to be occupied. There's no bathrooms, no anything in it.
So is your trash hauler reasonably going to make 2 stops within the site, or would it make sense to co-locate all the dumpsters at one location and only have to build one enclosure and also not have an enclosure that's easily visible from Eagle Road?
It's a good question. I mean, it's a fair distance to take trash. I don't think there's going to be much trash. But if the board, if you're concerned about this, it would be visible for, a direct line of sight as you're right in the driveway. The enclosure could be eliminated and still have it as a loading space. But
And then what do you imagine that closure is constructed out of? Because I know those details weren't provided.
I think it would be mainly just a fenced enclosure that had, or, something that's, a solid enclosure, but it's not something that would need to be masonry necessary, because it's not a heavy duty, fast food dumpster or something of that nature.
Right, so you're talking vinyl or metal fence, but with some kind of slats in it to hide what's inside. Do you also intend to put a gate on the dumpster?
Yeah, they would be gated.
And then can you talk more about what the material is of the fence around the property? Or what type of fence it is?
So that, I guess there was the discussion of the existing fence that's along the front here, repairing that. We're replacing it with something that's similar, but that,
Existing cyclone fence on the,
Okay.
down the sides. At least no, this side, I just walked down it the other day.
and this at McDonald's is cyclone fence.
Yeah, it's all cyclone fence is what it would be. Repair existing, add new as needed. And, at the back, I got to
These
refresh
are
my memory.
These are all pretty much all existing fencing that's mainly on the neighbor's side. there's, yeah, I actually have photos too. Didn't bring my phone.
That's okay. I'm
Chuck
just
has
looking-
photos.
Looking for the general idea. You're good. My next question is about the parking. So I know you're showing the number of spaces required per zoning. In reality, how many of those spaces do you think are generally going to be occupied? I think, I know you talked about there's about 30 employees working at this site.
About that, about half. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So the extra parking is truly just to comply with the zoning requirements.
yep.
And then I know you mentioned the Delaware County Planning Department provided a letter. They actually had 2 comments. Do you plan to address those?
Well, they had a comment stating that
There's a
the
4-foot minimum
project,
sidewalk requirement and they referenced a 4-foot minimum sidewalk requirement and a highway occupancy permit
right,
requirement.
so the sidewalk requirement, I believe, refers to the sidewalk on Eagle Road, which is not being affected. The plan does show a 3-foot sidewalk near the office building where we're removing the parking spaces that are there now at the entrance. And if that is a township requirement for private property sidewalks to be 4 feet, I don't believe that's the case, but if it was, then we would certainly comply with that. The comment about it requiring a PennDOT permit because it's non-residential doesn't make sense to me at all. So I take, there's a project that proposes a new building, 1,000 feet from the state highway without a change of use or a change of nature, normally doesn't require, a new PennDOT permit. We're not altering the site to the extent that it would require a highway permit. Because a PennDOT permit is just it's a nightmare experience of 9 months of misery. Because it's, at least,
No, I understand fully what it takes.
we're doing a project where we're putting an all-new curb and sidewalk in Chester, and it's 9 months of, PennDOT misery. to get
Amy
that
or
approved.
Chuck, do you have any insight into what triggered that comment from the county?
I don't have any insight on what triggered the comment, but I would tend to agree with Mr. Damon that you're not changing any geometry in the existing configuration that it is now. And in reality, you can't go any larger. So, there may be, PennDOT may come back and want some signage or something like that, but I can't see them asking for anything additional than what's out there right now.
Okay.
And it says highway occupancy permit is required for all new non-residential construction. Well, it's required for new residential construction if you're doing a driveway, so it makes no sense. The comment just doesn't make sense.
Okay.
Non-residential or residential.
Totally understand. We'll just make sure that administratively gets cleaned up if necessary. My final comment was, I know you mentioned you're going to occupy the building on the front of the property. When you guys were here before, I know the historic board or historic commission also noted the property, and they just are very happy to see that it's continued to be in use. And if there's any renovations or any questions at all, I'm sure they would love to be a resource in that endeavor.
Yeah, I have some renderings that I've done that it maintains the what's there, right? It's not the same facade. I'm changing the look of it. It's a much needed improvement, but it doesn't modify size or shape or anything like that. So.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
The rain gardens, I have a couple comments about the rain gardens.
You're expecting some type of infiltration from those systems, are you not?
Yes, yeah,
Okay. I didn't notice on the details any geotextile fabric between the soil mix for the rain garden bed and the subgrade. Is that something that you don't think you don't need for this project? Normally, in an infiltration system, you separate the one layer from the other.
a lot of a lot of rain gardens we do, we don't line the bottom because you're putting soil on soil. The soil we go heavy with sand.
Sand, oh, yeah.
Just to get some storage in there, and so it's not.
So you don't feel it's necessary?
No, I don't believe so.
On the slopes during construction, I didn't notice the use of any erosion control blanket to put down so the grass would get established.
Yeah,
Is that
that's-
something that
No, that's that.
something you could add?
Yes.
Okay. The entire parking lot is there are no curbing proposed, correct? It's all sheet flow off of the
Right,
pavement
yeah.
into the lawn areas. Okay. I think you might want to consider putting curb along that sidewalk that you're putting
Yeah.
along the driveway, along the front building.
Yes.
And also, Chuck, do we require wheel stops when we don't have curb along parking spaces?
Typically in commercial spots or commercial building and developments we do, this is kind of like an in-betweener. So I'll have to look that up, Angela, to be quite honest. But, I mean, in this case, when I was out there was literally 3 cars in the parking lot.
Oh, I realize. Okay, well, it just protects the edge of that pavement, that'll break up without curb there if you get a lot of wheel movement over top of that edge. On sheet C4, you have a seed mix, and it looks like the percentages don't add up to 100%. You might be missing a couple different seed types there, so you might want to clean that up a little bit. And then I noticed that in the rain gardens, you're putting in a river birch in each basin. Okay, those are dirty trees. They shed a lot, and there is a requirement that you have to clean those basins out 4 times a year. So it's important that you follow up on that, because if you get too much clutter in there, too much litter, it's going to affect the ability of those soils to infiltrate the way they're designed to infiltrate.
You're referring to the tree that's specified near the rain gardens? Is
They're
that what you're-
in the rain garden.
Gotcha. Yeah, so I met with the Shade Tree Commission. They're gonna help with that. I took some notes, and I think it was different. Is there the tree plan on here? Is that what it specifies
This is it.
on the plan?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a, oh, that is it. Gotcha. Yeah, they had made some recommendations, and I was going to kind of consult them.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm just saying, if they go in, you have to make sure you follow up on your requirement to clean out the basin 4 times a year.
Got it. Say clean out the basin, they mean just like clean the top of it. I'll probably do that 5 times a year.
I have a couple things, but I'll let the rest of my planning commission members, so Steve will go down this way.
I didn't have too many comments or questions. Just one thing on the landscaping. I was curious on the east side of the site. It shows a bunch of evergreens. I was curious, how are these going to get tall over time, or is that kind of to provide like privacy for all the neighbors?
Yeah, so again, talking with the Shade Tree Commission, they wanted me to kind of break that up a little bit more, but more or less, yes, we were going to do an arborvitae, like a giant green arborvitae that will grow pretty tall. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Just want to re-clarify, right? Like we talked about the deliveries going to there.
Yep.
Trash will also be picked up from the job site, so it's not gonna be like, right, outside of like all normal business trash.
Correct. Yeah, yeah.
that'll-
I
that'll
I
cut
don't need
down.
2 trash enclosures, but like he said, for how close it is, I guess it makes sense. I'll probably only use one of them, is the reality.
Yeah.
Because I gotta probably pay per pickup per can, which I'm not gonna wanna do if there's only 2 trash
No, I
bags
got
in
you.
each one.
Yeah, I just wanted to
There's
make
no
sure.
construction debris to answer your question.
Perfect.
Yeah.
The other thing I saw was you had like the drainage piece coming off, and it was rain guard number 2, listed on here on C7. That's going down the driveway out to the front. And then there'll be, I'm assuming, like regular, I think the word I'm looking for, the right kind of rock and everything like that underneath it, so it won't cave in with that PVC pipe.
For the section, the pipe that connects the 2 rain gardens? Yeah, that would be, yeah.
It just says the crushed stone. I just want to make sure that regular asphalt protocols are.
It's gonna be asphalt, that's underneath the asphalt, yeah, and it would be clean stone.
Perfect. No further questions from me.
Most of my questions have already been asked and answered. I guess the only one left is that you won't have like crews assembling early in the morning here before going out, or like.
So I have a few service techs who will generally load up in the afternoon and go right to the site in the morning, so we're not dealing with traffic. But yeah, it's not crews though. I mean, I'll be clear on that.
It won't be like an assembly site, 6 a.m. This job gets together and this job gets together, and.
For the most part, we're doing that kind of stuff in the afternoon. But no, I mean, it's administrative with storage of minimal amounts of goods. Yeah, I mean, I may have 6 guys who like actually work, right? Like the rest is all office, where they could be out intermittently during the day, but the goal is to keep them on site.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I'm just cross-referencing my Saldo code here. So I wanted to go back to the sidewalks. So how wide is the sidewalk along Eagle Road?
Oh, it's at least 4 feet wide, that existing sidewalk here.
And then the sidewalks internal to the site?
The new sidewalk here is proposed to be 3 feet wide.
So I do believe that needs to be increased to 4 feet and meet ADA requirements, since it does connect into your ADA parking space there. So I would just want you to double check that, but that should meet all ADA compliant requirements and the township minimum sidewalk width requirements as well. And then I kind of wanted to go back on the traffic impact study, because I recall you coming in before. I don't think I realized that it was changing over from an electrician's office to, you do roof work, you said? Roofing? I understand that they're kind of similar in that they're both kind of trade industries. But to me, it's a different business, it's a different use, it's a different pattern of behavior with employees and deliveries and schedules. So I can see the overlap between the uses, but to me, I would just question supporting a waiver request from this, just because it's introducing a different set of circulation patterns than perhaps what exists before. So if it were the same business continuing, that would be one thing. It's a different business. I understand.
Well, the building out front, that's what they did, was like medical delivery. It was based on, they had a lot of employees there too. So, I get it. I get it, but at the same time, I also know with what Ryan does and what we do, and it's very similar. And after speaking with Ed out Federico about the Eagle Road corridor and what would affect traffic there to create an issue, we're not going to be anywhere near that criteria. Because I'm dealing with the one up the street too, at 24 South. And the traffic study he did there, based on that usage for 10-unit apartment building, has no impact per his calculations. And comparing the two, ours will be the same or less, I would imagine.
Did you provide that analysis to the township?
I
Did we get
probably, I would imagine that
believe-
the initial, yeah, he didn't do a final, he did a,
Yeah, it was brought up at
Yeah.
the commissioners meeting, yeah,
For 24 South Eagle, that's
for
come up
24 South.
as part of the zoning map change, the traffic,
Yeah,
not for the sketch plan that had come before us.
right. So have we seen,
What they're talking about from Al Federico, a traffic engineer, is not been seen by you. It only went, well, no, it came here.
did we see it when this came before?
Right? Yeah, it did.
It just said it was-
If it didn't happen today, I don't remember it, Jamie.
Okay, it was part of the zoning map amendment.
Okay.
So it's not they haven't submitted their official plan yet
Yeah.
for land development. And so when we think about, like, it wasn't part of the sketch plan, it
wasn't part of the other submission that was done there either, or it wasn't part of the first submission that 24 South Eagle did.
That's fine. I just don't personally recall seeing the traffic analysis for this particular property.
No, it wasn't done. This property wasn't.
yeah, not for
I
this
was
property.
just referencing.
Right.
Did Mr. Federico testify before the zoning board?
No, he did not.
He did not? Okay.
I would just recommend if you have something supporting your waiver request, that be made available. Again, only because I hear what you're saying, but, trust but verify. So if we have something to go off of, I just feel that the ask alone isn't enough for me to justify supporting this waiver, that I would want to see something to back that up. And that's just a personal thing for me. But again, we're recommending to the commissioners, so up to them entirely. But that is just my personal take on this. Okay, sidewalks. And then I did note on your plan set, it appears you only have the one waiver printed. So, and that is for the new one that you're adding, which is the utilities within 400 feet of the site, but it doesn't include the other two waivers that you're also requesting. So,
Right here, it has two waivers. I can't read them right now, but waiver requested, that's on sheet C2.
oh, they're just broken up on different pages. Okay, can you please put all of your waivers on the same page?
Yeah, I think,
Because there's on page,
yeah, that was just for the subdivision, yeah.
because on the lot consolidation plan, page
Oh, yeah,
C1.
so we do have the waiver requested.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
page C1 has the one
Yeah,
waiver.
we should just be all on the cover. We could put it right here on the cover. 'Cause it-
Yes, so that, or, because you have your ZHB determination on C2. So I would just say, I would just put everything on the same page, whatever page it's on. The waivers, the ZHB should be on the same page. Okay. That. Okay. Oh, yeah, okay, go ahead.
Kevin, is your new building going to be sprinklered?
Whatever is required by code.
You may have to get a determination from the zoning officer, because the zoning board said that the only utility you could bring to your building is electric. If you're going to have to sprinkler a building, which is a building.
Is that a requirement in
I
Haverford
think it is.
Township?
Is for a warehouse or for a storage building, I would guess it would be.
That's whatever the UCC requires.
So if you do have to sprinkler it, then you may have to get the zoning board to say, not the zoning board, the zoning officer to say, that's okay, that's not a public utility
Right.
in the sense of what the zoning board was
Sure.
thinking of.
Right.
Otherwise, you're stuck with a dry system.
Right. Yeah, I don't want an antifreeze system.
I
You could do
I
an
would also
antifreeze
just-
system.
be cautious. It's the building code that's going to determine that, but also your insurance provider might have some insight that you may want to consider as well.
Take that inventory. Yeah. Thank you. We didn't get that far with it yet.
Okay. Do we have any other comments or questions from the Planning Commission? Okay. Thank you. I will take comments or questions from the members of the public. If anybody would like to make a comment about this application, please feel free to step forward. And seeing none, oh, yes, sir? Can you please come up to the podium? We'll need to catch you on the microphone. If you can just please state your name and address.
Curious on the water runoff.
Sir, I'm sorry, can you please state your name and address?
I'm sorry.
Can you please state your name and address?
John Jordan at 1305 Harrington Road.
Thank you.
I'm just curious on the water runoff from the house. Are you going to go through the parking lot? And what if it freezes? Like we had for the last couple of days, or whatever it is, last winter, last month.
So the stormwater, any kind of piping is going to be far enough down, so it's below like the 100-year frost in our area is 24 inches. So
Right,
it's
so
going
it'll be under 24
It's going to be
inches.
deep enough that it
Okay.
won't freeze.
That's all I wanted to know.
Okay, sure. Thanks.
All right.
Just
Let me just ask. Sorry, thank you, sir. That question actually reminded me of a note that I had. You mentioned that you're going to be adding a perforated pipe that connects the downspouts of the new storage building in an L shape that goes through the parking lot and then discharges into the storm sewer in the front of the property. Is that correct?
There's no storm sewer in front of the property. So
Or
to be
just-
more accurate, it would overflow during extreme events towards the road.
Just towards the road? Okay.
Out the driveway.
What were the results of your perk tests? Only because the assumption is that the roof drain will go through this perforated pipe with the majority of that water then infiltrating into the ground under the parking area. But if you have very heavy or clay soils, that might not occur. So I was curious what your perk test revealed for that area under the parking lot where that perforated pipe is proposed to go.
Perk test was-
I'm sorry, and if you could come back to the microphone, please.
The perk test was adequate. It wasn't super fast, but it was adequate. So this, based on, this would be 200 and some feet of length of pipe, 3 feet wide probably of stone. So it would be, a large infiltration area. So it would, have a pretty good infiltration rate overall.
Okay, so
So
you're,
it was, with the reduction that's required by the PA BMP, it was around an inch an hour.
okay, so you're surrounding this perforated pipe by how much of stone? How much?
2 to 3 feet wide,
Okay,
200 and probably close to 40 feet long.
okay,
So it would, when you take those and then multiply it by that infiltration rate, you get a pretty good flow out of there.
okay, great, thank you. Okay, anything else from the public? Seeing none, Planning Commission? Okay, so we have then a request before us. The applicant has requested a recommendation for the preliminary final plan, inclusive of the 3 waivers that they have. So this would again be for the utilities, showing the utilities within 400 feet. The 400. The waiver for the combined preliminary final, and then the waiver for, I just lost my place. Oh, from the traffic impact study. So I had expressed some concern about the traffic impact study. So I would like to, if we could, just take a individual vote on each of the waivers, and then we can move on to recommendation. So let's start with the first one, which was the 400, the new one, which is the section 160-4E5E4 to not required to show all storm drainage, sanitary sewer, and public water supply lines or facilities within 400 feet of the site. We're just gonna do a group poll here. So all in favor of recommending this waiver, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. The other one for the joint prelim final plan. And again, this is section 160-4A, to submit the plans in one stage as a preliminary and final. All opposed, please say aye. Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
All opposed?
All opposed?
All opposed? All in favor?
All in favor? Aye.
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 What did I say?
All opposed.
I have not had any sleep. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, I just skipped a line there. Thank you for correcting me. Okay, and then from 160-4E5I, to not provide a traffic impact study as required. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay. Any opposed? Aye. Any abstentions? Okay, so that was it was 6, 5 to 1.
But they will have to provide a plan that shows the movement of vehicles through the site.
Correct, yes, a truck turning template will still be required, correct. Okay, with that in mind, so we have then our vote on the waivers. Would somebody like to make a recommendation? So we have a couple of outstanding things. So we have a response from the applicant that there will comply for all of the outstanding items in the engineer's review letter, so we have those to consider. Do we have any other consideration elements that we want to include?
You want me to read them all?
Go for it, yeah.
So compliance with the Delaware County Planning Department review letter dated March 20th, 2026. Adding the curb along the sidewalk in front of the front office building as Angelo described. Removing the front trash enclosure that faces Eagle Road as the applicant agreed to. Providing the truck turning template showing vehicle movement throughout the site satisfactory to the township engineer. Ensuring that all sidewalks meet ADA and township requirements specifically related to width. And providing traffic analysis supporting the waiver request will be made available and deemed adequate by the township engineer.
Excellent summary, thank you, Kim. Anything else? I think that covers all of our discussion points. Is everyone in agreement? Okay, so would anybody like to make a recommendation then to recommend approval of the prelim final given the conditions that Kim outlined? Sure.
So I move to recommend the approval of 83 South Eagle Road land development, subject to the conditions as were just outlined and the waivers as previously voted on.
I'll second.
Great. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, there you go. Thank you very much.
You want these?
Now you can take them. I'll just recycle.
Give them back to him.
Sure. I'll just recycle.
Okay, that's what I would do. He might be able to. Those kids for coloring.
Okay, next on our agenda. Thank you, gentlemen. Good luck with your project.
So,
Okay, so next on. There you go. We have our presentation of our reorganized zoning ordinance presented by Adam Texa, IMEG. Right,
You got both of them right. That was great.
So we have been working with Adam for the past couple of months on drafting a reorganized zoning ordinance. I do want to say off the bat that this zoning ordinance is policy neutral, meaning that we did not change any policy provisions. There's no changes to the zoning ordinance maps. The districts did not change. No uses have been added. This is all to restructure the zoning ordinance, make it clearer to understand. Adam will go into all of that. So this is all neutral, so we're just taking all of the existing provisions and making them cleaner, easier to understand, and more straightforward, and doing some cleanup. So there are some things different than what they used to be, but again, it's not changing the overall permitted uses, dimensional standards, or anything else that we have in the zoning ordinance. So we have had a steering committee, I'm sorry, I'm stealing your thunder.
No, it's okay, please.
So we've had a steering committee working on this for the past couple of months, providing preliminary feedback. This is the first time that the Planning Commission is looking at this. We will be reviewing it this month. We will be reviewing it next month. At our meeting next month, we'll make a recommendation to the commissioners then on the zoning reorganization. So the draft is open, available for public review, and anybody can provide comment, feedback, or questions during the next month or so while this is under review. So with all of that preface,
Yeah.
Adam, I'll kick it over to you.
Great introduction. Can I bring you to all my meetings?
Sure.
That was perfect.
Great.
Thank you so much. So thank you, and thank you everybody who's come today. If it's all right with you all, I'm going to give the presentation here, and then when I answer questions, I'm going to sit over there, one, so I can see everybody, but also I've got all my materials over there. Is that okay? Great. So the agenda today is I just want to walk through really quickly the proposed structure, give a top-level review of the changes, talk a little bit about the supporting documents that were provided, and the questions and the discussion. I apologize if you were able to read through sort of the supporting documents already. This is going to be a little bit of a review for some of you who have. So the proposed structure. The way I like to think about it is it's sort of broken into groups. There are these sort of foundation articles that also include a big part of what we're going to likely be discussing today, which is the definition section. So this is kind of the foundation on which everything is built. Then there are these zoning districts. So this is where you will find most of your permitted and conditional and special exception uses listed, as well as all of your sort of lot and bulk standards for all the districts. One thing that you will note here is that there are new districts in here. One is an overlay district. You actually had an overlay district in your ordinance. It just wasn't specifically called out that way, so we pulled it out to make it clear for people for that. You also have a placeholder right now for your mixed use districts, which is in response to your comprehensive plan. So the overlays, we're specifically talking about that section that was called, I didn't actually put it in here, I apologize, but it was the provisions of special residential development shall serve as an overlay to the underlying district. But that was actually in one of your districts itself. So we pulled that out to make that clear and moved it into its own section. The other thing that you're going to see in the document is a reference to the supplemental use regulation. So one of the things that we tried to do is consolidate all of the sort of special provisions that reflect different uses into a single section. And one of the things that we hope that that's going to do is, as you go through a more substantive update, it's going to allow you to see how you are treating the same use in different districts in terms of sort of special provisions. Then there are the development and performance standards. So if everything before this is really talking about what you are permitted to build, a lot of these standards are sort of talking more about like, how do you build it? How should the building be designed? How should the building perform? What are your sign standards? What are your parking and loading standards? This is where you would find things like your landscaping standards, or soon to become landscaping standards. And then this is sort of group of provisions that really are focused on environmental and resource protection. And so those are sort of special sections, and I see them sort of grouped together. And then finally, you have your administrative procedures. This is a lot of your sort of boilerplate language about how to deal with non-conforming uses, administrative regulations, conditional uses. So there have been some substantive changes in the framework or the structure, not the actual content of what's there. So the reorganization, we hope, is simpler, more logically organized, so we'll make it a little bit more intuitive for everybody to navigate, and easier to understand and administer. As we've discussed, there's a lot of updates to definitions. So we've improved the language and added illustrations. This is one of my favorite illustrations. If anybody has read your building height, how to define building height, it vexes even the most ardent sort of zoning officer sometimes to get through that. And what we really did was try to illustrate exactly what it's talking about. We pulled some standards that were buried in your definitions out of them. So one thing that you generally shouldn't be doing is putting like standards about what is an appropriate buffer in your definitions. That should really go in a standard for buffers, and you should just define what a buffer is in your definitions. We brought in a lot of new modern definitions, especially around uses. Lots of things have changed since your last ordinance was done a comprehensive update. We're talking about fitness studios, green roofs, garden centers, lots of things that really need to be addressed. And then we addressed a number of sort of legal issues around the definitions of family, care facilities and group homes, adult commercial uses. This was really to bring the ordinance up to alignment with state statute and case law. One of the most significant things that you're going to see that's changed here are these use tables. We hope that this is going to make it a lot easier for you all to interpret what is permitted and not permitted in a certain district. But we also see this as a critical part of the substantial update because it's going to make it a lot easier for you all to compare what is permitted and not permitted in different districts. In your current ordinance, you would have to be flipping through pages upon pages in order to figure out, is an artist studio permitted in both C2, C3, C4, and C5? This table allows you to answer that question almost immediately. You'll also have tables for your bulk and uses. Again, the intent is to make this easier to interpret, cleaner, easier to understand. And this is not just for you all in an administrative capacity. This is also for residents, people who are maybe not everyday zoning experts who are interested in understanding what they can do with their property. And then one of the bigger changes here was the institution of use categories. So I think this is actually a really great example of the value of this consolidation is if you look at your current ordinance, you have all of these different variations of office permitted in the O1 and the O2 district. But at the very fundamental level, these are all just variations of office. There is no need to specify optometrist, photographer, magistrate, insurance agent, musician, masseur, artist, or similar practitioner, right? You can define a group of categories that is offices and then permit them. And one of the key things that this is going to do, it's going to make your ordinance more resilient over time as new office types comes in, this is especially true in sort of the commercial side of things. When there are new innovations, we weren't really talking about brew pubs 20 years ago. That is a thing now, right? That's something that we want to talk about. So in this definition, we've grouped all of those things under office, which is a room or group of rooms or buildings used for conducting the affairs of a business, executive, professional, managerial, service, industry, or government. Okay. So the supporting documents, I'm not going to go in them in detail, but one thing that I really want to emphasize is that early in this process, one of the things that we heard was the importance of transparency. People wanted to make sure that they could understand everything that was happening in this process, what was changing and what was not. And so we tried to provide as much documentation about where were things in the ordinance previously and how have they changed in the current ordinance. So we've got these sort of change logs here that hopefully are very valuable in that effort. But one thing that I also want to emphasize here is, well, let me touch on that at the end, actually. And then, so the only thing that I will say about the ordinance change log is it's very hard to design these to go bi-directional. This one is really intended to be able to look at where something was in the old ordinance and find out where it is in the new ordinance, not to go backwards. There's the definitions, which shows sort of the current definition and the proposed new definition. And then the change log for the uses. And so this is where you would go to see, for example, that example of offices that I talked about earlier. What was it in the old ordinance? What was it in the proposed ordinance? And where was it permitted? And this is very key. Those permitted and conditional uses refer to the current ordinances. So it allows you to look at, for example, a situation where you maybe have 3 offices. I'll go back to this one is really helpful. A situation in which all 4 of these things were permitted in the 01 and 02. So when you look at the new ordinance and you see office permitted 01, 02, you can be assured that all of those things now fall under that definition. So with that, I'm very interested in answering any questions you have. I do want to make a really important point about the public process that we're in right now. Does anybody have the exact page count of this final ordinance? It's 168 pages. It's incredibly long, right? We went through a really detailed process with the steering committee. Jamie has looked at it, our team has looked at it and done our QA/QC. But this public open process is an important part of making sure we got everything right. If there are things that we missed, if we mark something as permitted that should have been a conditional use, this is a process to help identify that before you go, you fully adopt it. It's a little bit like if you're buying a home, you get a home inspector. Well, the public is the home inspector in this situation to just make sure that we got everything right. So with that, I'm open to, I can answer some general questions here and then maybe I can sit down and answer any specific questions.
Great, thank you, Adam.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll open it then to general questions from the Planning Commission. And once we're done with the Planning Commission, then we'll move to all of our public comments. So just hang tight. We're going to have Planning Commission ask questions first. So we'll start, Kim, and work our way down if you have any general questions or comments that you want to bring up right now.
Okay. So my first one is kind of the broad organizational structure.
Yeah.
So I think it makes a lot of sense. It's very much aligning with typical zoning outlines. I think the one that caught me off guard was the floodplain, the steep slopes, and the historic preservation.
Yeah.
They seem to be in a little bit of odd spots. I don't know if you can shed a little bit more light on those specific organizations.
They've got to go somewhere.
Okay.
That's the honest truth.
Yeah.
They're sort of very special provisions, right? If you notice, like a lot of them have their own set of definitions, right? They're almost ordinances within ordinances. And if you have a suggestion about where it might better fit, but we just sort of felt like they needed to be kind of grouped together in that space.
Right. I think just my general comment of what caught me off guard is in the memo that was published, which was very helpful.
Yep.
It kind of groups them, and I kind of expected the groups to follow the article numbers.
Yeah.
And I realized they kind of jumped around a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's what caught my eye there.
Could you give me 1 second just so I could just grab some notes?
Of course.
Thank you.
Adam, do you want to just stay over there if that's going to be easier for you?
Why not?
Okay. Uh, And then the other category was the supplemental use regulations.
Yeah.
There seems to be a lot in there. And I get it as a broad category. I'm just wondering if there's a way to break it down a little bit more in a reasonable, more digestible way, rather than just kind of the list of 20 things, if that makes sense.
I think yes, there is a lot there. You guys have put in a lot of special regulations around uses over the years. So I think in a sort of phase 2, when we do more substantive updates, it is, certainly worth looking through there and seeing like what could be consolidated, how could it be sort of better organized. The idea was essentially to keep it alphabetical. So at the very least, you can kind of find it a little bit like you might find a definition. The other thing that I think is important to remember is that I hope that the PDF you all got is hyperlinked so that you can jump from those tables down to those specific sections. If it's not, it's certainly something that we will make sure is done when we deliver that, and will be hyperlinked obviously when you get it up on eCode 360.
And my last kind of formatting comment was with the historic preservation. It's kind of tucked at the end there, and I'm wondering if it makes more sense, and maybe this is part of that phase 2 you just mentioned, to move more up in the overlay section. The current placement just suggests that it's more like a procedural requirement. And I would imagine, given what's outlined in the comprehensive plan, that we want the historic preservation to have a more prominent location within our zoning.
Yeah, I think that could make some sense to have it sort of more connected with the overlay portion. Yeah.
And then just some general questions here. I know in the memo it mentions there's an organizational elimination of the OL use. If I read that correctly and understood,
Yeah.
Does that mean there's going to be a zoning map adjustment with this, or how is that administratively handled?
There currently are no areas on the current zoning map with OL designation.
Okay, great.
So
there's
it's
no
just
issue.
a cleanup here to be consistent with the map.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then how does the reorganization of this ordinance fit in with other ordinances such as like the subdivision plan development? I would imagine they reference each other. What does that look like?
Yeah, so that is likely something that you're gonna be wanting to address as part of like the E-code update, right? As they relink this in, but it's certainly something that we could look at.
And then, sorry, just reading my notes. Yep, and my only other question was just kind of more general, but what considerations from the comprehensive plan did you take into consideration during this phase?
So we were pretty explicit, trying not to make any changes that would sort of implement anything from the comprehensive plan, right? We were taking the direction that, our understanding from the comprehensive plan was a substantive update was definitely needed, that a big part of that was the sort of reorganization and cleanup was going to be a core part. But the only thing that we did was things like adding the mixed-use district, which we know is going to be part of it. We felt like it made sense to include that in the structure, and certainly started to think about some of the definitions that we were going to need to include. But I certainly expect that as part of the more substantive updates, there will be another round of definition updates to align in that process as well.
Okay, great. Sorry, one last question, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
specifically with the lot area definition.
Yeah.
So looking at that chart where you see them both side by side, the new definition adds language about floodplains, wetlands, steep slopes, and other right-of-ways. But in the original document, that language is not called out. I was just hoping for more context because, and I could be reading this wrong, but my reading is that for specific sites, the lot area could be drastically different than how might have been interpreted, or I don't know if there's more history under how the current definition is administered.
So that's all kind of current practice right now. It's so to kind of keep the lot area definition in line with our current policy. We expressly stated those with a list rather than if you're a new zoning officer coming in wondering if they are included in the lot area or not, because in many places they are. So rather than have any more ambiguity about it, we expressly stated it.
So you're just simply stating what's already in practice.
And it's already in practice.
Okay,
That's
great.
correct.
Thank you so much.
Sure, we can keep general comments. I have a very general comment. I know that this won't necessarily matter in E-code, but in the PDF version, we don't have a table of content with a page number. So if you're looking for a specific article, so that would be helpful in this reading of it. And that's my only general comment. Steve?
Sure. One general comment or question, I'm a little new to the zoning ordinances and reading all these. Was this kind of based on like adjacent towns or kind of a different, another area versus starting from scratch?
So we don't typically like look at adjacent towns. Our firm does a lot of these kind of zoning ordinances, and we sort of see this as like kind of the state of the art, the best practice of how to organize it. Admittedly, there are many ways to slice the apple. What is it? I'm missing the analogy in my head right now. There are many ways to to cut it up, right? You could organize it in a couple of different ways. Jamie and I went back and forth about how you might organize like supplemental uses versus like the development standards. What we ultimately landed on was this idea of kind of thinking about it as there are the things that regulate what your use is, and then there are sort of the things that regulate the signs and the landscaping and the fences and all of that kind of stuff. And that as you move through the development process, it's likely that that's going to be very similar to how you're going to be evaluating applications, right? One of the first questions you're going to ask is this use permitted or not? And then you're going to work through that process. And then you start drilling down into the details about, is the fence the appropriate height? Is the buffer an appropriate width? Are the driveways in the right location, right? That it sort of mirrors the process.
Gotcha. And one other, I guess, question regarding like the mixed use district. So it's discussed in the comprehensive plan. There's like a page filler in this zoning code, but the map's not necessarily changing.
Yep.
So if the
No map changes,
okay,
right?
then
We didn't make any map changes for this part of the process.
okay. I guess the open question is then, why have a mixed-use district discussed in the comprehensive plan and then listed in here, or why listed in here if there's not going to be any map change?
Yeah, so we are going to be going through a sort of second process of doing substantive updates and like the creation, excuse me, the creation of the actual language within that mixed-use district would be part of that second process. But for right now, if you were to adopt this and never do anything with it, any more, never adopt anything, having essentially an empty article in there isn't a problem. You actually had reserved articles in your previous ordinance. It's pretty common to do something like that.
And Steve, just real fast with that, so the placeholder is so that we keep our articles where we want them. So if you were to add in a new article, you would inherently have to put it at the end. Otherwise, you'd have to renumber all of the other articles, and then all of your cross-references get goofy. So by putting in the article where we want that future zoning regulation to go, it's now reserved that so that our numbering sequence is where we want it to be if and when we do add in the mixed-use district zoning language.
Got it, okay.
Okay.
That's all the general ones, yep.
Wanted to crack a joke and just be like, so no zoning map changes, right? Now, I think that, where we're going, definitions matter, right? The definitions set the stage for everything. I've spent a lot of time reading these definitions, and I think that, from what I've read so far, they make sense. I'm still making my way through a lot of them, but kudos, because this is the building blocks now to move faster later down the road.
Thank you. I think this is a great first step. A couple of things that I noticed reviewing this is that at least in the definitions where you say like see also, they're not hyperlinked, at least in this document. So hopefully they would be, so that you're not kind of like having to go search for things. And then under your use regulations tables, which I think are really nice and helpful, you have, the abbreviations for permitted use, special exception, conditional use, etc. And I was going back through the definitions, and I didn't check them all, but at least conditional use is not defined in the definition. So I would just check that those definitions of what type of use it is are clearly laid out. And I think the definitions make sense for a place to be, but would it also make sense for that to be summarized somewhere before the use tables, so people don't have to go all the way back to the definition section just to see those few definitions that are going to be relevant for them. And then I had just a kind of more of a, I guess, like a theoretical question for you. And when you've broadened the categories, like in your example of offices, I think that makes sense for streamlining, but were there any scenarios that you thought of or you could think of where broadening a category actually creates new loopholes that maybe weren't there when those categories were more strictly defined?
I hope not, right? I obviously can't think of every potential scenario. I guess what I would say is that loophole's sort of an interesting word, because part of the value of the use categories is that they're buckets, right? That you can, determine whether something falls within or falls without. And that's a big job of your zoning officer, right? To interpret that. So I do think it is accurate to say that it would potentially allow for like a new type of office, right? That does not exist right now, right? And your current ordinance is, especially on the sort of offices and retails, is so laundry listing. I was hoping to find cobbler. That's one of the ones that normally like sticks, is still there. We don't have many cobblers anymore. But what it really ends up doing is when you're that specific, one, it leads to long meetings about, well, is this thing as much like that thing or not like that thing? And it also really sort of makes it difficult for your ordinance to evolve with time. So my hope is not. My hope is, and I really do encourage people to read the definitions, which it all sounds like you're doing. Like, look for those kinds of things and see if there are, potential pitfalls along the way. But we don't think so at this point in time.
Yeah, just, I guess, like, with the goal of avoiding having to, like, re-add in more addendums later on. Like, I think wasn't the vape shop thing more recently something that had to be modified
And I will say that what typically happens with ordinances is exactly what you're talking about, right? There's a sort of broadening and contracting that naturally occurs over time. But I don't want to set aside the fact that there are certain uses which all communities recognize are sort of in their own category. Vape shops has been one, right? Marijuana dispensaries has become another one where it is not a normal retailer. It's got a whole bunch of state regulation associated with it. You need to address it in a particular way. And in those cases, you do want to sort of very tightly and clearly define what it is. It's not a bucket. It's a specific use that you're regulating or not regulating.
And maybe it's in there and I didn't see it, or this is kind of just an idea, but is there any kind of placeholder or bucket for things like new technologies that, if they present a public health issue, even though it's a retail store or an office, like vape shops, aside from the personal public health, they are also a big fire risk, right? Because of all the lithium batteries. So things like that, like a solar car charging station, I don't know, like something that doesn't exist now, but has inherent risk in its technology. Like, how are we forecasting for that?
So that's where you try and, drill in and really focus in on those uses because of their specific, conditions. I can think a little bit more about what might those be, especially around the emerging technologies. I think probably the one that
Data centers or...
Data centers we're going to have to talk about, right? There's already state legislation and legal rulings around data centers. The one that jumped to my mind when you were just bringing that up was it may be worth thinking a little bit about how you would classify like an electric scooter retailer. Is it a bike shop? Is it a retailer? Like, what does that fall into? And the battery questions around there. Certainly not an automobile, right, sales thing. It might be something to think about. And that's a great thing about this process that we're in right now is we're really in the reorganization phase. We're trying to build out the sort of core definitions. And as we start digging into the substantive elements, we can, continue to dig into some of these questions.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, great. So then we can take a deep dive into some more specific questions if we have any. I know, Angela, you said, did you go through all your questions, Kim? Okay. Angelo?
How you doing, Adam? Yeah, I have a lot of specific individual questions to ask, so I hope that's not a problem for tonight's meeting.
Yeah, so here's what I would like to offer to everybody is I've got the old ordinance up, I've got the current ordinance right now. I would really encourage, commissioners to send comments to Jamie as well. And what we were sort of talking about doing after this meeting is at your next meeting, you are going to have to make a recommendation, right, to adopt or not adopt or adopt with modifications. And one of the things that we could do is try to track through all of the comments that we're discussing today, as well as anything that you send to Jamie, and give you all a kind of like consolidated list of changes that might be appropriate for recommendation.
Okay, the comments that I'm going to go through, I've already submitted to you guys. Okay.
Okay.
And they, in my opinion, either haven't been addressed or need to have some discussion. So those are the comments I want to go through. I'm not going to create anything more than what I've already given you.
Okay. Well, we're here. Why don't we talk a little bit, and then if we feel like if I don't feel like I can answer the question, I will let you know, and I will get back to you.
That's fine. I see we added definitions for brew pub, craft distillery, and craft winery. Okay. I prefer the term craft brewery instead of brew pub. But my bigger question is, what is the logic in having the brew pub only permitted as an accessory use to a restaurant, where a craft distillery and a craft winery can be a standalone use?
So craft distilleries and craft, we also have we have a microbrew
I believe. What is the, second here. Let me just search the ordinance really quick.
Does it have to do with the PLCB?
Give me 1 second.
It's, in the definitions, it's microbrewery.
Microbrewery. So that would be the equivalent, so the microbrewery would be the equivalent of the distillery and the wine, and the craft winery. And then the brew pub, I believed we changed that in response to your comment to add other fermented or brewed beverages.
Okay.
So that it didn't just have to be beer in a brew pub.
Right. On the definition of building line,
Yeah.
we say a line parallel to the street line at a distance therefrom equal to the depth of the front yard required for the district in which the lot is located, or any line parallel to the street line which establishes the lot width required. Okay? So technically, using, let's say, R4 as an example, which has a 30-foot front yard setback and a 50-foot lot width, okay? You could achieve the lot width, required lot width, in a distance of 20 feet from the street line, and it would meet that definition.
Say that one more time, I'm sorry.
In using R4 as an example, you could have a lot that is 50 feet wide at a distance 20 feet from the street line, and it would meet the definition of building line.
It would meet the width.
Yeah. I think what this statement has to be is that the lot width has to be established either at the minimum line or some point beyond the minimum line, not in front of it.
Okay. All right, let me take a look at it.
Okay. On the definition for shared driveway, it talks about providing access to
Sorry,
two.
do you mind giving me 1 second? Let me just read this, just so I make sure I'm fully understanding your question. So, I'm sorry, I don't understand how this definition allows you to use a point in front of the front yard line. So if you have a 30-foot, your example was you have a 30-foot setback, front yard setback, right? So isn't that,
It says, or any line parallel to the street which establishes the lot width, or any line which establishes the lot width. It doesn't say any line beyond the minimum setback that establishes the lot width.
yes. So I think, and I could be, I will look at this again, is essentially that it says, or any parallel line to the street which establishes a lot width required for the district in which the lot is located. So basically, if there is another standard in the zoning, in that zone that specifies a different lot width determination, then that governs. But there's no way to move it up in any other way, right?
I don't agree. I think by putting the word or in there, or any other line that establishes a lot width, that means that that line could be anywhere on the lot, in my opinion.
Or any other or any other line parallel to the street which establishes the lot width required for the district in which the lot is located.
Right.
That's an important provision, though. It
Sure.
has to be stipulated somewhere else.
And if I have a line that's 50 feet wide, that's 20 feet from the street line, does not that meet the definition of minimum lot width?
No, because it's got to be required for the district in which the lot is located.
50 foot is the required lot width.
Are we talking about, like, for example, if a lot is, say, a triangle?
Yeah.
Because then the lot width would have to be where you can actually maintain that width, because we have the diagram
Yeah, but let's,
in lots, because we have that obtuse, or that acute angle.
Take for instance the 4-lot subdivision that we just did on Small Road.
Right.
Okay. If you remember, the lot lines were not perpendicular to the street line. The street was at an angle to the lot lines.
The street was at an angle to the lot line,
So
right?
if you take a line parallel to the street and move it back 30 feet or whatever the distance is, that angled distance is going to be longer than the perpendicular distance. And the lot width should be the perpendicular distance. That's it. I'm trying to avoid a situation where you have a lot on a curved street on the inside of a curve where lot lines are radial and they converge as they go back.
right, so if you go to lot width
Yeah.
on page 21,
Well, that's another comment I had.
well, but that illustrates, right, that the lot width line follows the curve of the street.
Right, at the building setback line, yeah.
Yeah, so that, exactly that, so that you can't move it, if I understand you correctly, your concern is if you moved it parallel back, that line would be shorter than if it were in a normal lot. And I think this diagram addresses it, but I will say this. If we are having to have this conversation about this now, then we need to readdress the definition. And so let me take a look at it, and
Okay.
we'll get back to you.
All right, let's move on up.
I think it would be helpful, Angelo, in order to understand if you can show a diagram of what you're talking about. Because again, Adam, I think the diagrams are fantastic addition. Thank you. So I think if we, well, I'm trying to understand it. So maybe you can show me a diagram after the meeting. Okay.
All right, shared driveway. It says 2 or more buildings or lots, whatever. And I think that's too open-ended. And I had suggested that we limit the number of buildings that can share a driveway to 3. Otherwise, the way the definition is written, you could have 10 houses on a private driveway. And I think 10 houses or anything more than 3 requires a public street or a private street built to township standards.
So you're saying that anything more than 3 units would require a street to access it?
Anything more than 3 lots, I think the definition says 3 lots or buildings.
No, it's any owned or maintained right-of-way accessing, providing common vehicle access to 2 or more individual lots or principal buildings.
Right.
So that would mean that if you had for example, like a garden apartment building, right, with 2 buildings on the lot, or 3 buildings on the lot, you'd have to build a street you couldn't have a private driveway?
I'm saying anything more than 3.
I think that's going to result in
And
incredibly
if you have
overbuilding
a driveway into a garden type apartments, it's not going to be 10 feet wide. It's going to be 24 feet wide.
Right, so it would require the driveways, it would require to meet driveway standards, but a street,
A
Is your
driveway,
concern
township
that-
standard for a driveway is 10 feet wide. Do you think it's appropriate to have a 10-foot wide driveway serving 10 lots?
Well, I would assume that you would need to have I don't know if the borough engineer would evolve, but I would assume that would require access standards.
We just had a subdivision that had 4 lots on one common driveway.
Okay.
Is that the
I don't
concern?
know, I just don't understand I think that that's a fairly common occurrence.
It's not fairly common. Haverford Township has a limit of 3 driveways, 3 houses on a common driveway. I mean, from a practical standpoint, you have too many houses accessing a 10-foot wide driveway. I don't think that's appropriate.
But
I mean, I have seen that in the past, and it's been more for emergency access. So if you have, more than 3 or more than 4 or whatever is defined, then it would, I don't know if we want to say it should be built to the standards of a public roadway. I've seen instances where they do, it's 10 feet, but then they add not the bricks, what am I thinking of? You know, those blocks,
Yeah.
not Belgian blocks, but like GeoGrid, so that a larger vehicle, so if you need to have, fire trucks, because it's no longer a driveway in the sense of it's serving a single home, but it becomes an access way for multiple homes.
Yeah.
So I know what you're saying, Angelo. So it might be worth.
Can I make a suggestion that this is not something to address in a definition? That if
I agree.
that a driveway should be inclusive of access to multiple lots or buildings. But that if you really want to drill into this, that this is something that you should address in your SALDO, right? In terms of your what is the required access requirements for different development topologies. So I'm not sure that setting essentially a standard in your definition here makes sense.
Okay.
Just look at something really quickly.
All right. I'm still hung up on the definition of family.
And we've talked about this. I will say that this is something that's gone through legal review. We really need to listen to the solicitor on this. It is something that comes from, all the fights over the definition of what is a family that have gone in the courts. I'm just gonna defer to your solicitor on this.
Okay, but can you give me an example of something that would meet the definition of family that includes not more than 4 unrelated people? Can you give me a circumstance where that would happen?
Not more than 4 unrelated people? Right. So 3 unrelated people living together.
Who would those 3 unrelated people be?
3 friends.
So I could have up to 4 friends living in my house?
Yes.
Well, in your house, you plus 3 friends.
You plus 3 friends, yeah.
It says,
3's company.
but shall not include more than 4 total unrelated persons. So
Yeah,
I could have my wife, myself, my 4 kids, and then 4 friends.
Shall not include more than 3 total unrelated
I'm sorry,
persons.
right, they changed it. So 3 of my friends along with my family could live in my house, and that's okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. But I can only have 1 boarder. Or 1 in-house servant.
1 domestic employee, boarder, roomer, or lodger, yeah.
Okay. And then the other thing is, our ordinance prohibits flag lots. Yet we have a definition for a lot that's basically a flag lot.
How do you know it's not permitted if you don't define it?
Excuse me?
How do you know what it is so you can prohibit it if you don't define it?
But the definition allows flag lots.
No,
Yeah,
it doesn't.
Because it says you can have a strip of ground that meets certain criteria.
No, it says nothing about what is permitted or not permitted. So if I told you, Angelo, you're not allowed to drink soda, and you brought me something, right? And I was like, that's soda. You probably asked me, well, how are you defining soda? In order to prohibit something, you need to define what it is. So we're not saying flag lots are, I don't believe so. I don't believe that we're saying that flag lots are permitted. We're just defining what a flag lot is.
But we're saying that the lot width can be less than what the standard might be for that zoning district.
Frontage on a public street in which
We do have,
percent of the street frontage required in the specific district. Yeah, so if it is less than 80%, right? And we've got the illustrations of the lots. So if it's less than 80% of the frontage, it is a flag lot and therefore it's prohibited.
we do also have it prohibited expressly in our prohibited uses. It says no panhandle or flag lot shall be created, either by subdivision or lot line change.
Right, I understand. And so we're defining what a flag lot is.
Yeah.
But maybe the definition of flag lot has to be less than 80%.
Yeah, that's how we're defining it, exactly.
Yeah. We got one more thing,
Yeah.
and I'm going to stop. Oh, it has to do with current section 182, 715, conformity of building setback lines.
Do you have a page number, sorry?
In the old ordinance, it's 182-715. There's no page numbers on here.
Okay.
The page numbers go on this.
And this is the old ordinance?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
And basically, the new ordinance copied that
Right.
statement. Okay.
Right.
So, notwithstanding other requirements of this chapter, it talks about conformity of building setback lines. So my question is, if you're in a district that requires, say, a 30-foot setback, okay, and all the other houses on either side of you are set back at 20 feet, we've always said that the new building that's going to be built has to be set back at 30 feet. But this wording suggests that it should be set at 20 feet.
I can't say anything about this. We haven't changed anything. So
Okay.
I don't know how you've been interpreting this in the past. If it's something that we need to address as part of the substantive updates, I think that would make sense. But you're right, we've tried to carry everything over to the new ordinance.
Okay. That's it.
Okay, thank you.
All right, only just because we were looking at the definition for family. I just did a quick double check. We don't have a definition for what a boarder, a roomer, or a lodger is. So I'm not sure if we should
Yep.
add that. And then I guess related to that, to any sort of rental, short-term rental, or anything like that, if those definitions for boarder, roomer, or lodger would then also apply to other things other than what we insinuate in family, just to make sure that that's a comprehensive definition for any other instance where a boarder, would come into play.
Right.
I don't know if it applies to motel uses or things like that.
Yeah.
Like long-term leases, short-term leases.
Yeah. We did add a definition for short-term rental.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
'Cause
I hear you on boarder, roomer, and lodger.
And then also only because this is coming up aggressively right now in where I work, we have in the new code, section 182-1316, visibility at intersections. This deals with vegetation obstructions at corner properties where they're within the site triangle. We don't refer to it though as a site triangle. So the only instance of the term site triangle references, hold on. Site triangle shows up in the use regulations for farmers market, where it says no vendor shall be situated such that it interferes with any clear site triangle. But we don't actually define site triangle in the code.
Okay.
The only time that I think we reference it, it might be in other places, but the only time that I'm seeing, that I've noted, is that it shows up at the 182-1316 visibility at intersections, where we don't refer to it specifically as site triangle, but we do refer to the measurement distance, which is 75 feet from the center line.
Yeah.
So I think we should define site triangle, and if we're going to be using 75 feet for all roadways, you're giving me a look. Oh, so if we want 75 feet for all roadways or local roadways, and then I wasn't sure as well if this visibility at intersections also applies to driveways, and if we wanted driveway obstruction regulations also. Okay.
So I would say definitely something to think about as part of like a more substantive update. I will say, like, as we're going through this, like, Angelo, I think you're calling out some like important things about driveways and access and site triangles. That is another conversation that we're going to need to have. I mean, you could take a pretty deep dive into some of these issues, and I do a lot of like safety and pedestrian, mobility work. It can be a pretty intensive effort. So, yeah.
And so again, I'm not necessarily like if this wants to wait for the more substantive, I think that's totally fine. I did just have concerns for the farmers market within the site triangle, but I know that if we just reference like PennDOT and AASHTO standards, it kind of defines it already. So we don't necessarily have to define it now because we do have other standards that we can rely on in other codes. But
I think it's a good addition.
Pencil that for future consideration.
Or just have consistent language of clear visibility at intersections rather than the reference to at all to a clear site triangle.
Yeah, however,
an alternate here. What we did was, we took it from the current ordinance and just popped it in. But if we're referring to a clear site triangle and it's not defined, then let's remove that reference and make sure it's consistent for this version. And then we can obviously talk about the deeper dive for a clear site triangle and
yeah, I agree. Because
way issue, if you want to go deep on that one too, I have thoughts on that for code enforcement. But I think just consistency's sake sounds good. Visibility at intersections sounds like it's the old language we used and we can continue to use that.
I think that's a really good kind of direct way to address it now, but it's site triangles and code enforcement surrounding that. I know very well how complicated that can be, and it warrants a much more robust discussion. So I would support that. Thank you for that suggestion. And that's all I have. Thank you.
I had a couple specific questions here. One was the driveway definition I had a question on. And the new one here. Let's see. Bear with me. There we go. So driveways are designed primarily for vehicle circulation rather than vehicle parking or storage. Just looking at it pragmatically, I know around my neighborhood there's a lot of driveways, as I'd refer to it, which are there's no garage or no alleyway or access way, and it's one car parking in front of your house, behind the sidewalk, away from the street. Is that not considered a driveway, or what is that considered? I could think of half a dozen places within a couple blocks of my house that are like that. I'm sure there's many more throughout the township.
Yeah, I think it may be worth thinking about adding a definition around like a parking pad or something similar to that, because we want to be careful to avoid, right, we're already starting to have conversations about driveways, right, and what they mean. We want to make sure that we are not creating a situation in which somebody could have a very long driveway and basically use that for parking, because we have tried to overlap basically what it sounds like. And I think I understand what you're talking about. It's just like it's like a 20-foot, paved area that you just drive up and you park on, right?
Exactly. It's a little parking lot.
It's like a parking it's like a parking pad, the way that I might think about defining that. Yeah.
All right. I had a question on the slopes and very steep slopes, why it needs necessarily be 30-foot length. I don't think that was in the previous code, and a lot of times that's more, could be the width of a lot or more, a large portion of lots. It seems, maybe there's got to be some break, and if there's a small grade change that's 5 feet long, right? That's maybe
That's
not
sort
a
of the
steep
intent.
slope, but okay.
Yeah, the intent is because it kicks in a lot of regulation, right? When you have that condition. So it's trying to prevent situations in which you have maybe like a very steep grade at a very small portion over a lot. But yeah, let me add that to our list of things to revisit.
All right. One question I've always kind of had, or that's popped up, is there's stuff in the code about decks, but a different ambiguous one is if you have a paved patio behind your house, or kind of paver stone or something like that, that's necessarily impervious. But what does that fall under?
Yeah, I think we've got to one of the things we know we've got to sort out in our substantive update is like impervious surface and decks and all of that. So I'd like to table that conversation because I think it's a good question, but I don't think we're going to solve it in this.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be solved right now, but just something to think about, because it comes up in these meetings. The same thing, I saw pools were listed as impervious now, and that comes up in this as well. So yeah, that's it. Thanks.
Great, thank you.
No, not right now.
Anything else come up? Okay. At this point, we'll take public comment. So I'll start in the front row. If you'd like to come up to the podium, please state your name and address, and feel free to give your comment. Yes, sir. You don't have to give. You don't have to give a specific address or a street. You can just say you're a resident or not a resident.
Hi, my name's Mike Lee. I'm a Haverford Township resident. I had some, first off, I wanted to say how important public comment is on this, because this has been done by a bunch of insiders, and I think we know how to do public meetings and get public input. Did it in CREC when that was developed. We did it with the billboard issue, and so far we've really failed, particularly if the comprehensive plan. That was just total contempt for residents, in my opinion. Anyway, the question I have about is on page 40 and 41 for R5 residential area. We have that the mobile homes are a conditional use in the township, in that section. Can you tell me how that came about and what that means for residents and what they should do about it?
That's a pre-existing standard in the code.
So
but that's
can I give a clarity on
just
this?
make a statement, though, before I say? Well, I looked at the page 5 in this, the supporting documentation. It gave a whole bunch of gobbledygook. So I think they're going to a bunch of different places. So it just can't be, it's in the code. You have to show us where.
Happy to. I have it right here for you. So it is
So can I jump in on this really quickly?
Oh, yeah.
On this? So this is actually one thing that, as I was looking through this, we flagged. This is, so we're in the R5, right? So
Yeah,
that
R5.
is, in the current code, it's 182-207. And so 182-207B, use regulations, 1, permitted uses, a mobile home or a mobile home lot may be permitted on land development as a conditional use, subject to the provisions of 182-724, and then it lists it. And I think one of the things that, I don't mean to speak for you, I apologize if I am, but is really confusing, and this is something that is like confusing about your ordinance, is it's listed under permitted uses, but then underneath that, it is specified as a conditional use, where in other sections, you have your permitted uses and your conditional uses like separated out.
Yeah, and I'm glad you're pointing that out to me, because it seems like there have been so many assumptions and things made in the presentation of this document.
Well,
Your
that's
AI
not an
generated- No,
assumption.
please. I hear all you guys giving updated definitions now, when this is supposed to be a rewrite of something that was done in the past, or existing zoning. Now, all I hear is, oh, we can make this assumption and this change, and it's just lacks validity because of that. You need to understand that you have to sell this to the public. Because a small group of insiders like yourself, it doesn't matter. What matters is what the township people want. And to be quite honest, I think anybody who's bought a house in R5, thousands of people would be upset to know that this new thing is going to be thrown into our new code now. It's just,
So can I be really clear? Because I think language matters here, and it's really important. When you say this new thing has been thrown in the code,
nobody knows about it.
okay, so I want to wholeheartedly agree with you on that fact, that in your current ordinance right now, it's a mess. We found things in this ordinance that are really difficult to understand. And one of the things that I think the values and the benefits that this reorganization brings to the ordinance, or to you and to every resident here, is hopefully a lot more clarity. And I know you've been at some of the other meetings, and one of the things that we really tried to do, and we heard from a lot of people here, was the importance of transparency, which is, I think, what you're talking about. And so that was the purpose of putting out all of those tables, to try to be really crystal clear about where things were, where they're going, and how they're reorganizing, so that you can look at a table and understand what's permitted in your district.
Right, but I guess that's my question. What is the standard that how are you going to convey this to the 50,000 residents of the township? Will you have large meetings with this, where you would go up and give a presentation and tell them what this means and why it means, and give them a chance to talk back to you and say, I don't agree with that?
So with this engagement process thus far, for this reorganized draft, we did put out e-newsletters, social media, direct
I'm asking
email.
you if you're going to have meetings with people.
Direct
where they-
email.
yes.
You're interrupting me. Can I finish?
No, you work for us. Answer my question, please.
I'm trying to answer your question.
I don't care
I have
about
to
your-
finish.
I'm asking about meetings. Are you going to have them?
I'm trying to get there. So we have made every effort to put out the word about the public meetings that we're holding at the Planning Commission, because the MPC requires that the Planning Commission hold the meetings. We have a direct door mailer that will be coming out that will also advertise the May 14th Planning Commission meeting. And then there will be a public hearing that we will put word out for about that. And then the board will consider this for adoption. So there will be 3 opportunities for public meetings before they even consider this draft.
Okay, but that's just it. Before we did this, and other big issues, And this is the biggest issue this township has ever done. Before billboards, before the crack, we have 20, 30 public meetings. I went to all sorts of things on it. We can do that.
This is just phase one, and we are having 3 meetings for this phase, and it's a reorganized ordinance. There will be other public meetings coming as part of this process in phase 2 when substantial changes come.
When are you going to put the schedule out?
As we get the work done, then we will put the schedule out. I don't want to give anybody false pretenses of a meeting date that we can't, bring a deliverable to. So yeah, as we
Yeah, but I guess I'm
can,
tired of hearing about your deliverables. We got in the comprehensive plan, you didn't do anything on 2023 and 2024. Everybody liked the plan that came
this
out in
is
September.
a different
2022.
process that we're in, and we are absolutely being
And then
much more
December
transparent.
19th of 2024, you put out a comprehensive plan and expect us to respond to it in 45 days. And we have 1 hour for the township to get up and give presentation. That's not acceptable. It's just not.
Thank you, sir, for your comments.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Good evening. My name is Dory Dowdy. I live in Haverford Township. I'm submitting this comment on the proposed reorganization of Chapter 182 zoning. 2 elements of the draft are particularly concerning. Section 182-402.e in Article 4 states that one of the core intents of the residential districts is to, quote, protect residential neighborhoods as much as possible from heavy or through traffic, unquote. This exact language has existed in the ordinance for decades, yet traffic congestion, cut-through traffic, and related safety problems was the #1 residential concern identified in the 2021 survey of over 3,600 households. The Board of Commissioners has not meaningfully addressed this longstanding policy. The second thing is Article 7, mixed-use districts, is almost entirely reserved, and Article 14 contains 2 new reserved sections, which are 182-1404 commercial building design standards and 182-1405 mixed-use building design standards. These are clearly placeholders, as we already mentioned already, but for the significant Phase 2 changes that will implement the Haverford 2035 comprehensive plan's push for higher intensity mixed-use development along our corridors. Residents are tired of seeing good-sounding policy statements that produce no real protection, only to watch the township lay the groundwork for more development that will almost certainly worsen the very problems we've repeatedly asked the township to solve. The 2021 survey made it clear that the majority of residents want to preserve single-family character of our neighborhoods and also address and reduce traffic impacts, yet this draft appears designed to facilitate just the opposite. I therefore strongly suggest clear on-the-record answers before this reorganization is adopted. 1, how exactly will 182-402.e be given enforceable weight in future reviews, especially once the reserved mixed-use and building design standards are filled during Phase 2? 2, what specific densities, building heights, form-based design elements, and traffic-generating uses are currently planned for the reserved sections in Article 7 and Article 14. 3, when will the public receive the actual proposed language for these reserved sections, and will there be full public hearings before any changes are adopted? And right here this evening, my 4th comment just came out as I was sitting there listening to everything. Public participation is very important to have happen during live public meetings and not be handled by submitting comments. So I just saw that interacting. I was glad to see that the comments that went back and forth, even though it might have delayed the meeting being longer. We expect more than placeholders and restated intentions. Residents deserve real enforceable protections for our neighborhoods, not another framework that makes it easier for developers while ignoring the concerns we, the residents, have raised for years. Thank you.
Thank you. Good
My
evening.
name is Mac Wagner. I live on Rosewood Lane, which has nothing to do with what I'm going to say tonight. My comment is regarding the ROS on Grassland. Do you want me to give you a moment to pull up the map since there's no map changes? Or
I'm sorry,
do you
what
just
is-
want me to talk?
Go ahead and state your comment, please.
Okay. While reviewing the proposed reorganization, I noted that the ROS, Outdoor Recreation and Open Space District boundary, on the official zoning map appears to cut through several residential properties near the intersection of Grassland Road and Oak and Laurel. Existing single-family homes appear to straddle the line. The line actually cuts through some of the properties. Can the township please confirm on the record that, one, the existing homes remain legal, non-conforming uses, and are fully protected under the rules carried forward in the new Article 20, non-conforming uses? Two, the 25-foot boundary tolerance rule in new 182-104.c still applies exactly as it did before. Three, this apparent mapping artifact will be reviewed and corrected as part of any future map updates or Phase 2 or zoning project. And four, someone will review ROS boundaries in other areas of the township that may have this same flaw and correct them also. I do think we, homeowners of Haverford Township, need time to review this draft so we can find artifacts like this to make sure they are addressed and corrected so as not to negatively affect homeowners. I'm not asking to change any district regulations, only to confirm that current homeowners are not inadvertently affected by the map line shown in the draft being adopted in Article 1. Thank you.
Thank you. We do have a map here if you want to see the district that you're referring to. It doesn't appear that it cuts any properties. It's right here in this polka dot area. It doesn't appear that it actually split zones any properties. It's shown in the street though.
It's all the way across through these properties here.
That's the street.
Well, the map that I was looking at, there's no map changes.
This
Which one
is
were you looking at?
on the township site, so this is your grassland right here, right? This is Oak, Laurel, because that's the, is it the VFW?
And so do you see the color doesn't change, so it's all mustard
Yeah.
color?
No, all this green goes across
Are you currently?
across the street and through those homes.
It's
Yeah.
not shown that way though on the map here.
And here, and these homes. And then where the ROS stops, it stops.
But it stops at the street here.
Specifically, I was looking at a map that was sent to by Commissioner Forster.
Okay, I think what we'll do is, we have your comments, so we'll just refer those to the township and they can get back to you with an answers, because the maps that we're looking at do show that that district stops at the street line and doesn't intersect any additional property, so it doesn't split zone any properties. And again, we're not making any changes to the map, but if it's incorrectly split zoned, okay, then we will refer her to the township, so, thank you. Anybody else for public comment, sir?
Can I just confirm one thing that,
Yeah.
We have intentionally not tried to change any, permissions here. So if you looked at the document that we supplied, this sort of supporting document, one of the questions on there is like, if I have a
had the draft of March 19th,
Yes.
the R1, R1A, and R2.
I'm sorry. Yep.
The draft on March 19th, I guess it was.
Yes.
The R1, R1A, and R2, what are the definitions between the three?
Those are zoning districts. So we don't have specific definitions for the zoning districts. They're each separate, distinct
They're all the same,
districts.
the same headings.
So if you go to page 38, it's 182,403. Districts aren't defined, but one of the things that are done is sort of like what's called an intent or purpose of the district. And so there's an intent for the R1, an intent for the R1A, and an intent for the R2. So it's not a definition, but it's sort of a broad statement about what is the intent or the purpose of that district.
Okay, I'll look at that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Sir?
Hi, I'm Chris Mejia Smith. I'm a township resident. Thank you all for this really hard work, because you shouldn't have to be a zoning lawyer to understand zoning, because it's so important to our communities and everything. So thank you. The feedback that I have is there are 26 articles, I think it is. It feels like it's too much. I think we could probably streamline and reduce the number of articles that we have. We have one specifically for residential, we have one for commercial, office, all of that. If instead we took those sections where we establish the districts and have those statement of intent and the specific intents, strip those all out, make it one single article that's just simply, this is the base zoning district. This is what we are defining as all the districts. And then you can have a separate article that is all the use regulations. And so you could have each of the tables aligned there. And then you can have all the dimensional requirements in separate tables in a separate article. And so you've taken a ton of different articles and consolidated it down to 3. And I think that would help people as they're trying to navigate this zoning law once it's adopted, once it's the law of the land. Okay, well, I know what an R1 is. I know what that is. So I want to focus on what can I do with that property. They can go straight to that section on use regulations. They can see what they can do with their property, and they can see the comparisons between other properties, other zoning categories within residential, and they could scroll down and see, oh, well, what can I do if this was a commercially zoned property? So I think that might be a little bit of an easier way for people to navigate this. So that was my main comment. Oh, also, I just want to thank you for the communication about this meeting. I got the postcard in the mail. I got the YouTube message from the township manager this morning. That's why I came here, because I forgot about it. So thank you.
Thank you.
And I would just say, one thing that a lot of communities will do is essentially publish a cheat sheet, which is typically like an 11 by 17 with all the use districts and all of the bulk standards that make it a little bit easier for that fast reference. So yeah, it's a great recommendation. Thank you.
One thing I got to the bottom of your one comment, Jamie, it looks like the township GIS website, which lists out the different commercial districts and housing districts. ROS does cut through Oak Lane and Laurel on the township GIS site. So it's the township
On the
PDF
interactive,
map is
the
bigger than
interactive
GIS.
map?
The interactive map.
Okay.
Bingo.
All right.
So, but it should be clear that the interactive map is not the official map. So you do have an officially adopted map that's in your zoning ordinance. So that isn't legally binding. Yeah. 100%. I just want to make sure that you understand that that's not the official legally binding. It can't impact what you can and can't do on properties. You have to use the actual one in the ordinance itself.
Is what she sent you an image, a static image, or did she send you a link to a map? Was it a link or was it an image in the email? It was a link. Oh, Right, so what we determined is that the link that was sent was probably to, there's an interactive GIS map, and it appears that the map layers on the GIS map may be a little goofy, so thank you for pointing that out to us. Jamie will ensure that that is corrected, but again, that's not the legal map, but I can understand how it would be confusing, so we appreciate you bringing that to our attention, thank you. Okay, any other public comment? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Forsty-Grupp, and if I was the source of confusion about maps, I certainly apologize, because any goal that I have when communicating about this process is to make sure everyone here at the township knows we're undertaking this intensive and important process of rewriting our zoning code. So I hope that everyone takes a look at Haverford Township's Facebook page, takes a look at the Haverford Township site to find out the latest progress in this important process to make our zoning code as user-friendly, efficient, and clear and transparent as possible. As a commissioner, as a resident, I think we all should be here. The whole room should be packed with people wanting to know more about our zoning process because it's so important. So if anything, I would ask all those who are in attendance to let other people know these are happening and to come and join us because we want to have your input. Thanks so much for your time and all your detailed questions. I'm always impressed when I come. Thanks.
Okay, any other public comments? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close public comment. And since there's no action items related to this agenda item, we will conclude our discussion on that. Thank you very much, Adam, for all of your hard work, and Jamie as well, for dedication to this process. This is really a beautiful document, and we're looking forward to moving through this process. So the next item on our agenda here.
Adam, will you be here in May?
I will be here in May.
The next item on our agenda is the review of our meeting minutes from February 12th, 2026. Would somebody like to make a motion to adopt those minutes?
I'll make a motion to adopt the minutes from February 12th, 2026.
Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? I will note for the record that Adam had to leave early, so he is not present for this vote. All right. Public comment for any other agenda? Yeah.
You skip something right after. It says the applicant for GK Properties.
Oh, hold on. So I'm looking at the wrong. Sorry. Yeah, I'm looking at the wrong agenda.
There was a typo on the agenda, and that didn't get taken out from our previous
It doesn't have a number next
template.
Oh, no, this was it.
Yeah, I think the GK Apartments was the...
The printed out
Oh,
agenda, Maggie, is different than the,
Yeah, I'm looking at the PDF one. So we reviewed the land development, we did the presentation review of minutes, and that's all I have.
yep, the one that we printed for this evening did get mixed up, or we didn't
Oh,
get.
is that the one that you have?
After
Oh, okay, so that was, I'm sorry, so that was a typo. So it says presentation of reorganized zoning ordinance, but underneath it says the applicant GK Property Holdings. That's not actually on our agenda for tonight. That was a typo.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt, but
No, thank you for clarifying. Yes, we are not looking at that land development today. I understand that there was a zoning map hearing.
Yes.
Do we know the result of that?
They didn't vote yet.
Okay. Okay, all right. Anyway, we're on to the public comment for all other non-agenda items. Seeing none, may I have a motion to adjourn, please?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. We're adjourned. It's 9:32 p.m. Have a great night, everyone.